Hello guys, Belle here. Going to give you a walkthrough of the legendary gear that is available currently for the Warlock. Now I'm going to cover all three specs so that it's all done in one video. I am going to start with Destruction. Now I did do a video already on how legendaries are going to work, how you acquire them, and all the information that you'll need to know. If you want to click the top right hand corner of this video, you will be able to see that video, which gives you the full breakdown. Now for these legendaries, they are spec specific. There are going to be some that are for clothies. There are going to be some that are for plate wearers, but we're just going to go through each spec that's available, as Legion Beta is allowing us to go to Legendary Trainer and be able to purchase said gear. Now, I'm going to actually do the comparison with what I'm currently wearing, as I'm currently wearing PvP gear. It's not going to help a whole lot because it's PvP gear, but unfortunately I'm on a max level server, and I wanted to be able to show you guys the legendaries, so I at least will get to show you kind of the difference in stats as far as what's added for the legendaries, which hopefully you guys have already watched my legendary video and already know how it's going to work and how difficult it's going to be to acquire these. So let's move right in. For Destruction, the first item that we do have here, which is going to be Norgannon's Foresight, all of the legendaries as far as the gear is concerned is going to be item level 895. So these are going to be for feet. They have, as you see, the intellect and the stamina is actually pretty substantial as far as the gear. And if you look at the comparison with what I'm currently wearing, it's a pretty good boost. It's basically double, so that's definitely what we want here for a legendary. And then for the equip, none of these legendaries have unuse. They're actually all passive abilities. Your instant cast spells have a chance to trigger Foresight, making your next non-instant cast spell castable while moving. As a Warlock, this is pretty awesome. Now the priest and the mage can also wear this because this isn't necessarily class specific so much as cloth specific. So for the next one we have here, this is going to be the neck, and this is going to be the Prydaz, and this, as you see, once again, with the critical strike and the mastery, that's pretty substantial. It's, well, yeah, the critical strike isn't what I would have hoped for, but still pretty awesome. The stamina is doubled. And for the passive ability, after not taking damage for 5 seconds, you do gain an absorb shield for 15 seconds of your maximum health for 30 seconds. This effect may occur once every 30 seconds. Now, the absorbs here for the Warlock are already amazing anyway, especially when it comes to your demon. So definitely happy about that. Shout out to the guy who's hopping around on the yak, because that's amazing. Whoever you are, guy, you're awesome. So the next item here is going to be your Magistrite Restraints, and this is for your wrists. Once again, here you see your intellect, your stamina. The important item to note here is going to be the passive ability, which is your Chaos Bolt has a 30% chance to strike an additional enemy within 30 yards, which we already have the Havoc changes with the Destruction Warlock specifically, where there's no cooldown and it lasts for 20 seconds. So combine this specific legendary with those Havoc changes, and I really feel sorry for people on a large level. I think that's going to be really sad for them. So, but that's still pretty awesome. Nice to know that for the wrist. Now for the next one, this is going to be your back piece, and this is going to be Critical Strike and Haste are going to be your main set here. Enemies marked with your Havoc take 8% increased damage from your single target spells. Now Havoc, obviously, since Incinerate has changed with Fire and Brimstone, your Fire and Brimstone's a passive ability, and your Incinerate's it's an area effect. So with your Havoc, you're basically going to be using your Havoc with your Conflagrate and your Chaos Bolt. So enemies taking increased damage, they're already getting hit with a huge Chaos Bolt that crits basically every time. I think my base stats, I think my Chaos Bolt's like almost 300,000 per Chaos Bolt, and that's it. Critical strikes every time. So that's definitely going to be nice for us Destruction Warlocks. Next one, this is going to be for a ring. As you see, the main stats here are going to be Haste and Mastery. Successfully applying a loss of control effect to an enemy grants you 70% increased movement speed and 15% haste for 10 seconds. This effect may occur once every 30 seconds. Super amazing that that's even a possibility here, and once again you get to see the stat difference. Now for the legs, for the Destruction Warlock, you have Demonic Gateway now casts instantly, and you can use Demonic Gateways twice before triggering the cooldown. That's actually pretty amazing. The only crappy part is what I would find this most useful for is in PvP, and you can't use it in PvP unless it's World PvP. So shot through the heart right there, Blizzard. For the next one, this is going to be your waist. As you see, the main stats here are going to be Haste, and mastery. And for the passive here, casting a damage fire spell has a 15% chance to generate a soul shard, which, I mean, 15% is not really a whole lot, and that's kind of crappy as far as something for legendary happens. But, I mean, any opportunity you get to generate soul shards, since they only can come from Conflagrate, I'm in. And the last one here for the Destruction Warlock is going to be another finger, and this ring, as you see, is going to be Critical Strike and Haste, and the passive ability here is going to be enemies affected by your Rain of Fire take 7% increased damage from your fire spells, which three of our main spells are fire, so that's definitely something that's interesting there. So let's move right along and let's go to the Demonology Warlock, which I think some of these are going to be the same, but I'm just going to, actually, let me look and see. Yeah, some of these are going to be different. Which it actually looks like we've already talked about these two. So this one's going to be different here. Your main stats that are going to be important here are going to be your Critical Strike and your Mastery. For Demonology, your Call Dreadstalkers refund 2 soul shards. That's awesome because Dreadstalkers are going to be an integral part of a Demonology Warlock's rotation. So that's pretty nice to have. For this one, this is actually going to be for risk. Critical Strike and Haste are going to be the important items to note here. For 25 seconds after casting Summon Doomguard or Summon Infernal, you or your minions deal 30% increased damage. This effect can be gained only once every 3 minutes. Now, what I like about this is if you're casting your Doomguard or your Summon Infernal, some shit's going down and you're probably in a tough spot anyway, so that increased 30% damage is probably going to come in handy in a bind. Now, for this one, this is actually going to be a belt, and Haste and Mastery are going to be the stats that are important here. Doom deals 5% increased damage for each non-pent that you have that's active, which is pretty nice. And then for a ring here, which Haste and Mastery is going to be what matters, each Dreadstalker or Wild Imp you summon reduces the remaining cooldown on Summon Doomguard and Summon Infernal by 2 seconds, which is pretty nice. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. The rest of these we've already talked about. These are what you get to keep for swapping to Demonology. So now let's take a look at what we're looking at for Affliction. This hood piece for Affliction, the main stats that are important here are going to be your Critical Strike and your Mastery. Agony deals its full 20% damage 20% faster. That's pretty nice since it's damage over time. That's basically how Affliction works, so that's definitely nice to have. For another ring here, Critical Strike and Mastery, Corruption slows enemy movement speed by 60%. Some of these, it's kind of crappy because some of these would be really good in PvP and it's not usable in PvP, so that's kind of sad there. Now another one is going to be for the waist. This is Critical Strike and Haste. Casting Unstable Affliction on a target who is not already affected by Unstable Affliction has a 25% chance to refund the Soul Shard cost. So that's actually pretty useful as well for Affliction Warlocks. And as you see, since I'm able to show you the comparison of the stats and what you're actually gaining from that, I think that that's really nice to be able to show you how powerful these legendaries are going to be. And the Demonic Gateway, this is the same for all 3 specs to be able to use that. And then the other one that's going to be different here is going to be another wrist, and this is going to be Haste and Mastery. Each enemy afflicted with your Unstable Affliction increases damage you deal by 4%. So that's actually pretty awesome. The only risk is that you'll go insane. I like the little tooltips here. So that's going to be what your Warlock legendaries look like currently. Keep in mind this is subject to change. They may or may not add more, and that's what you're going to be looking at. Please make sure you watch my video. Click the top right hand corner to find out more information on the legendaries and how you acquire them. If you're new to PWNCAST, make sure that you do give the channel a subscribe, and feel free to comment any questions that you have on any of the legendary items, and that way I can make sure that I get them answered for you. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.